Welcome back. Season 3, Teacher's Surgery. Thank you all so much for your continued support, sending in so many questions. Remember, people, family, this is a safe space where we're having real and relatable dialogue by professionals. So, without further ado, let me introduce, you know them already, Emeka, Bola and Clement. Thank you, guys.
How you doing?
Hey.
I'm excited. Season
Likewise.
3, I
Good.
cannot believe that we are here. You know what kills me about every time? We always have a new studio. I love this. This blue is like giving me hope,
And the
like my
lighting,
life.
the lighting is...
Bola's no filter. We don't need any filters.
filter.
So this is the natural beauty of it all. I love it, guys. We've had loads of questions in, and I really love that because I think people are really catching on, and it's really making an impact. So, one of the questions that have come in for you guys is: how responsible are parents regarding their child's behaviour? I think this is a really, it's going to be a really interesting question to hear your responses.
Okay, well, me, obviously being the early years woman, the kids come into us from early. So as a parent, if you start laying the ground rules from early, it makes it easier for us, the teachers.
Okay.
For example, if your child is at home eating a snack, when they finish the snack, what they're supposed to do? Put the rubbish in the bin.
Yeah.
They leave it on the table, you're supposed to say, John, can you please put it in the bin? If he says no, you're supposed to be persistent, put it in the bin.
Give them the African stare.
The African eye.
Wonderful. I get it
The
now.
African
Okay.
eye, if they're not listening the first time.
Right.
So then when they come into school and the teacher's sitting down, everybody comes to the carpet, they should know that the teacher means everybody comes to the carpet, not Johnny's going to go wandering around still playing. You understand? So ground rules from early makes a huge difference and makes teachers' lives easier as well, I think.
Emeka, you want to jump in?
I think parents' responsibility is key in terms of the input and the values that they're inserting to the children from a young age. Obviously, we're dealing with teenagers. In terms of my students, I think the youngest are 16 to 19. And sometimes those foundations are not there, and then you can see the level of disrespect that they have for everyone.
Yeah.
And then sometimes that's also included in their parents.
Sure.
But then you can't always blame the parents and say, you know what, because sometimes the parents have actually done everything that they can. They've put those values in place. And as young people grow through that early teenage years and they start getting into themselves in terms of their own specific identity and any other subconscious issues that they may be going through that nobody else knows about. And at that point, they now might start rebelling.
Sure.
You know, so I've had students and young people who have had, you know, 2-parent households, strong values, strong morals, who have been involved, been to every parent's evening, but then they get to the stage of sort of year 9, year 10, and everything goes out of the window. You'd think if you meet them outside that they weren't raised in a good home.
Sure.
But all you can do, I guess, as a parent is just to make sure that you are involved and that you are putting consequences and boundaries in place. The level of consequences and boundaries will differ from different parents. Some people are still using physical chastisement as a way to try and parent, which invokes fear. And then other people are, you know, trying to use the whole let's communicate angle in terms of seeing if that's effective. And so both sides will tell you that their way is more effective than the other. But for me, parents are the beginning, and then the teachers can now supplement that, in the workplace.
I want to jump in as well.
Yeah.
And Mecca said something that I think is quite important, like how involved are the parents? I think that's really important because like they need to be aware of how much impact they actually have like in their child's lives. Like going from experience and similar with Emeka, like I have students that are from 14 right through to 19. So sometimes we don't catch them, you know, in the early years, obviously. So we have students that can't even write their name.
Wow.
So, you know, we will obviously put things in place to help that student.
Give
But
them
when
some
the
support.
student is sort of like rebellious or being disrespectful, obviously there's other things that we have to do. we will call the parents in terms of, these are the things that we're putting in place and stuff like that. We'll have meetings. What I find strange is when parents will say, "Oh, you failed my son," like like you're not doing enough, you're not helping, etc. My question to the parents is, well, what are you doing to help? Your child also, like, are you reading with your child? Do you sit down? Do you read with it? Because I think those things are important. And I feel like sometimes in a meeting, we feel like we can't ask those little questions. So my thing is, why can't we ask those questions? Like, why can't we tackle it on the head? Because we are trying to do our part, but what are you also doing as well? Because we're a team. We've got to be a team, because the focus, the goal is to, make, obviously for them to achieve or be successful, start from a level and increase that level up. So I think parents need to be aware of their impact and how important that is as well.
And just to say on a point of what you've just raised, Clement, I remember when my daughter was starting secondary school, one of the things that we had to do as parents was you have to sign up to say, I commit to doing this to support the child. So it's almost an agreement between you and the school to say, we're a team, we're working together. What's your, we're doing this for your child, but it's also your commitment. Because I wonder, how does a child get to 14 when you're in your care and then they don't know how to spell their name? And then someone says, oh, but you failed my child. How does that? What's happened in that story and that journey where the child is at that point where they go, they don't know how to spell their name. Do you know what I mean?
I guess for me, I don't really like playing the blame game.
Sure.
Because there might be different individuals throughout that child's life that might have failed them in terms of sometimes you might look at the parents, you might look at the people from early years, you might look at the people within secondary school or college. So there's different individuals, but it's now looking at the child's needs at the time and figuring out how can we help you in this moment.
Sure.
And for me, in terms of managing behavior, it's all about building relationships right from the go.
That's what I was gonna say.
And so I don't know how everybody else's technique is, but for me, I've had classes where the head of the department might say, Omeka, this class is very, very challenging.
Sure.
Based on obviously other teachers' experience with those particular students. But then I go in there and then my approach is different. And I always attribute that to my time in youth work. And that's where I learned the ability to build relationships, to help some of these young people who were on the streets. And so the type of nurturing and the care that they needed. So I built up that understanding of what are the trigger points, what are the entry points of understanding young people. Sometimes it may be sport, sometimes it may be being able to relate to them. And all of that encompasses how do we now help that young person. And so for me, it reduces the amount of behavioral issues that I have, but then they go to Clem's class and then they're misbehaving there.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, I don't want to now take the glory and say, oh, they're behaving in my classroom.
Yeah.
That doesn't help any of us.
Sure.
So it's more, okay, I speak to the students and I'm like, don't just behave in my class.
Yeah.
Because life is not just with me. Life is about going out there and being responsible for yourself as an adult and doing what you're supposed to do everywhere that you go. So I guess to follow up on that question is, what kind of techniques do you do to make sure that you minimize some of those behavioral issues?
Yeah, like me, I'm quite firm. I'm also very loving.
Yeah.
Sure.
And like last week at school, if a child is not listening within my early years, they'll say, I'll call Bola. And the kids will be like, no. Like, not because they're scared of me per se, but they know that when I say stop it, just stop it. Yeah. But I still hug
There's
them.
some boundaries,
They still see me, oh, Miss Bola, and they still hug me. So they just know. And then I had one teacher say, why do they always listen to you? And I said, I don't know. They just, kids just take to whoever they take to. There's nothing you can really do about that. Like you said about kids behaving in your class maybe and not behaving in Clement's class. Kids are kids. They take to people differently.
Sure.
I
do want to go back to the question, because the question says, how responsible are parents regarding their child's behaviour? But what I want to ask you guys is, if you are a parent and you are identifying, like Omeka, you've tried to instill best morals and values and they're going along the system, how do you, if you are seeing something in your child where you go, I'm struggling to keep control of them. Maybe they're going out, they're not coming back from school late. You know, behaviour at school maybe is deteriorating, or behaviour at home is deteriorating. Because sometimes the school behaviour and the house behaviour is two different things.
Yeah, different.
What advice can we give those parents?
Talking. You know, a lot of parents, you know, we're working, we're a bit stressed and stuff. We come home, do the dinner, and we're on the phone like this. If you don't talk to your child, you're not going to know really what's happening in their life, you know. We, the parents, we have to provide that comfort, and we can only do that through communication.
Yeah.
That's just what
I agree. I think we have to look at positive reinforcement as well, because similar to like what you're saying, you know, when it's tea time or dinner time, for instance, like things like, and I know it's basic, but the TV should be off. You know, we can eat
Tea
together.
time.
Family
Tea time.
Yeah,
Where does
like-
Clem live? Tea time. Tea time.
I said dinner time as well. Yeah, but you know, like, well, I guess that's what some of the parents tell me. But you know, like, you know, are you having these conversations? You know, how was school? You know, how did you get on? You know, like, what did you like? What didn't you like? Etc. Etc. Yeah, it's about, you know, being involved. Because listen, I'll be honest. Like, me being a parent, you get home from work, you're tired.
Yeah, 100%.
You don't really want to do much. You just want
You've been talking all day.
You've been talking all day. You just want to relax. You just want to chill. But I know the positive impact it's going to have in the future, which is why, which is what keeps me going and keeps me doing it. So,
Yeah, and I think I'd concur with that in terms of being a parent as well. It's just making sure that you're adding those values to your child. So I can speak from a teacher's perspective and from somebody who's now raising, who's going to be a teenager very soon. So
Nice.
some of the attitudes that you're getting, but just constantly reminding them of the values.
That you're still a kid,
Exactly.
even though you're a teacher.
And then there's a boundary.
Trying to make room.
Yeah, there's a boundary of
Yeah.
respecting
Yeah.
the household as well as outside, everything that happens outside. So yeah, I feel very responsible, knowing that I'm doing my part. So if for whatever reason anything happens outside, it's not because she hasn't been trained, it's because whatever influences outside or her now growing in the wrong direction, it's not because I haven't imparted those things. And so if somebody now says, what's the parents doing? I can stand up and say that I've done my part. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I guess as well, flagging it with the teachers to say things are happening and stuff like that, so that you have some support. All right, guys, thank you. That was interesting. I hope it helps. Bola,
Yes,
we've had a
ma'am.
question for you.
Okay.
Bola,
Yes.
someone sent in a lovely question. I don't know, maybe they want to get to know you a bit better,
Oh,
but you guys
God,
feel
here
free
we
to
go.
jump in. So, Bola, the question was, what was your worst school experience?
Oh, okay. I hated history lesson. I hated it. I found it really boring because I like fun things, fun activity. That was just my worst. So I spent a lot of my time in history just being the class clown, sending notes to my friends, my clever friends, trying to distract people and getting sent out.
That
of the
doesn't
class.
sound like you, Bola.
I know, but it was me. Unfortunately, it didn't get me anywhere, Kelly, so don't do it.
It got you here. You're a teacher.
Yeah, I mean, I had to pick myself up. But,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, listen in school, it's wise to listen in school. So being sent out of the class actually made me feel quite bad, quite down.
Yeah.
At the fact that I hated it and I didn't really know what was going on. Then when GCSE time came, I completely failed. Of course I'm going to fail if I'm not listening, you know? So, yeah, that is a bad memory for me.
Guys, anything from you guys?
For me, it wasn't until I left school then I realised that I had a terrible school experience in terms of the support for post-school life.
Sure.
So some of the decisions that were made in terms of how I ended up at the college that I was at and the course that I was doing, I'm like, where was the support? I don't think there
who
was...
gave me some advice?
Yeah,
To say, this is
so
for you.
once I saw what other people got from different schools, and I'm now reflecting on some of my experiences at the school, I can look back and say, you know what, there wasn't enough support and guidance from that perspective from some of the teachers. Anyway, I can mention some of the teachers that were outstanding. Mr. Tucker, who did everything he can to support us, but in terms of as an institution, I didn't feel that support. To be fair, and so for me, that was a negative experience. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
I
But
turned
look at you
out
today.
okay.
Yeah, like, Anything to share?
I think thinking back, I think one of my worst experiences was when my French teacher, obviously going back in secondary school, was turning up to lessons drunk.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So that was,
Wow.
and I guess.
Are you sure it wasn't hand sanitizer? Because they do have a similar smell.
And I say worse only because in hindsight, obviously being grown and adult and knowing that me being a teacher, I say hindsight because I didn't learn anything.
Okay.
Like, I didn't learn a thing, you know, and now I can see why I didn't learn anything because the teacher was
clearly
intoxicated.
inebriated. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah. On a real, and it's not only me that obviously suspected it, like the whole class. So you can imagine
So sad.
there was no real learning going on like in that
It was
class.
just
It was just papers being thrown,
Free
people
fall.
at the back listening to music. Like it was just
Yeah.
honestly,
Yeah.
there was
So it's
nothing going.
teachers failing the kids and
Yeah.
kids failing themselves.
I won't mention the school.
basically.
Yeah.
Ça va? Do you know, there's something about even my French teacher, he used to come in there, sit back, and he would say, I don't care if you learn, either way, I get paid. And I'll never forget that.
Oh, yeah, that's
that
bad.
is
That's
horrible.
bad.
Yeah,
That's
he just
bad.
didn't care.
That's
Because-
awful.
Because some of the,
That's
the
awful.
class weren't well behaved, and so he just used that as an excuse to say, I'm not even going to teach today. Carry on.
Do what you
Yeah.
want.
You know, and that was it. But it is what it is.
Look at you all today. Your testimony.
Yeah. Which is
Yeah.
why my French is terrible, to be fair.
But
And
you
that's why I
need
didn't
some.
understand you either.
There you have it. That was bollocks. So that was everyone's worst school experience. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope this is helpful conversation. Listen, we can laugh about it now. These are amazing teachers and they're doing amazing things. Remember to like, subscribe, follow, share, tell a friend, watch it, share it. I don't know, whatever the influencers do, tell them to do the same thing as well. And we'll see you all again in the next episode. Thank you.
All right, cool.